quantity surveyors are good with their measurements. They get all their measurements right, their square meters right, their sizes, dimensions, all that sort of thing, but not necessarily the costs. It's got to be a cost that the builder can either, yes, can get it for that price or no, we can't get it for that price. So that's got to be checked. And I think that's another thing with, like I say, going out to 3 builders and people just seem to want, we all want to get the best value we can for the money we're spending. It's human nature, but you've got to make sure you check you are getting value for money and you're not going to get caught later. And the cheapest price is not always the best price. It's can be quite the opposite. Could end up costing you more at the end of the day.
Thinking about building or renovating? Or maybe you are already knee-deep in a project now. Are you feeling unsure of which steps to take and if you are making the right calls? You're not alone. Welcome to Builders Beyond Borders, the podcast where experienced Aussie builders share real stories, insider tips, and practical advice so you can build with confidence, avoid costly mistakes, and actually enjoy the journey. Let's dive in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Builders Beyond Borders podcast. I'm Paul from Independent Building Solutions in Canberra, and with me today I've got Hugh from New Realm Homes in Melbourne. We just thought we'd start off on a bit of a chat about the difference between architects and draftsmen and why you would go one way and why you would go the other, and the various reasons around that. Obviously, design and cost are the main factors involved in that, but we'll have a bit of a chat about that. So, what's your thoughts on this, Hugh?
Oh, well, I think we've all got some amazing thoughts when it comes to the differences between architects and draftspeople. And I guess we could even throw just general designers, because I think that designers, they sort of bridge the space between an architect and a draftsperson. And like I personally use a building designer for a lot of our work. And it's really interesting to sort of see the difference between what's sort of thrown out and the costs involved. As we know, architects they can charge quite high rates, but you are paying for what you're getting generally. Whereas draftspeople, a lot of draftspeople do a lot of work for architects, and they do all the nitty gritty, so finalising all the plans and making them so that they are what we call working drawings. And it's really interesting when you sort of start to get into the differences there and what you can actually achieve with both. And deciding on that is one of the first things that you really need to be able to do. And with any building journey, deciding on an architect compared to a draftsperson is really just going to be what your needs are. If you've got a really good idea and really nutted out what you're going to do, which of course takes a little bit of time and a little bit of experience and knowledge, and whether it's drawing the little plans by yourself or jumping onto some online options and software and that sort of thing, like SketchUp or something like this, things that a lot of people can actually get a hold of. A lot of times, if you've got some of that basic stuff there, your options not necessarily always need to go towards an architect. And you can go down the draftsman route because you know what you want. Draftsman will be able to draw it up, and there's no second guessing what's going on. And we find that, well, a lot of our clients, they have some of these designs, and they've got a lot of the ideas and Pinterest mood boards and things like that as well. And we see heaps of that, which is great. Yeah, we can go, okay, well, between draftsperson, building designer, and that sort of thing, we can save a little bit of cost for the clients, and they can just go down that, and we can get things moving really, really, really quickly. If you've got the budget and you've got the money to sort of burn, and you're looking for something that's, you've got a vision, but not necessarily know exactly what it's going to look like or what you want it to look like, the architect might be the better option, because their artistic flair really comes into it, and they can really design something that's specific to you, taking your ideas and your vision, because that's their skill set. They're artistic themselves, and they'll be able to do something that's just out of this world. And then you can follow that up with everything afterwards, and you can get the result that you're after. And if you have a builder involved in there as well, then you can obviously manage the costings and that sort of thing, to make sure that your budget is going to be realistic and accurate, and do some costings preliminary with some concept drawings and that sort of thing as well, and can really try to make sure that things are on the right path for yourself.
Yeah, the architects are a lot more artistic, like you say. I mean, they've done a lot more training. They've been to university. They've got a lot more sort of imagination, I guess, in a lot of these areas, and that's where they come up with all these great ideas. They all look great. They all work well. They make things that are new and unique and different, and they like to try different things, which I like too, because it's that challenge. But it always just comes down to cost. At the end of the day, it's a lot more expensive usually, and a lot of people are not into the architectural stuff. Some people are just want plain, simple, and basic, And I mean, an architect will draw plain, simple, and basic as well. They'll do whatever you want them to, but they're going to charge more than a draftsman. So, for the simple reason that's what they do. They're qualified and they've been to university and they've got a rate that they charge. So, but they'll also run a job for you or manage a project for you, whereas the draftsmen don't tend to get involved in that sort of stuff. Again, it costs more because they charge a fee. It's usually a percentage of the price of the job. So if you want the architect involved throughout the whole entire process, we do that stuff sometimes with them. Some people go down that path, some people don't. We've worked with the same architects in both, with them running the job and with them not running the job, because the clients either did or didn't want them to. They just wanted to draw the plans and leave it at that and then work with the builder, or they wanted to draw the plans and then work with both all the way through. That can cost a bit because again, like I say, they charge a fee, but it can be very helpful if you've got a bit of a tricky project and there's going to be a lot of variations, or there's going to be a lot of unforeseens, things that pop up. Having the architect sort of involved all the way through to help as that, I guess, that third opinion, which is always a good thing to, one, make sure that the builder's doing the best possible thing he can in terms of that issue for the client, and also making sure that the builder's not overcharging them. And then the architect's the same as there to give advice and help with the design and how to go about doing certain issues that might arise to help the builder get it where it needs to be and get the price where it needs to be. And also that can be quite helpful and quite beneficial. Again, it just would depend on the cost of the project, but you probably got to allow another 5 or 10% over and above the price to cover all that sort of thing as well. But it's again, like I say, it just depends on what you need and whether you need to go down that path or not.
Yeah.
And
Well, there's probably other things that sort of follow on from it, because we know that, especially when it comes to the costings of projects, people are sort of the belief that going out to a minimum of 3 builders for the quotes and the estimates of the costs and that sort of thing. I know that a lot of architects, they use QSs, so quantity surveyor, to be able to sort of find out whether things are going to be accurate, and the costs and that sort of thing are going to be sort of aligned with builders, and so a lot of times they do this, but they follow it up at that latter stage afterwards as well. So after plans have been drawn up, and that's probably where some of those things sort of fall over, because then some of those projects fall into that 80% that don't get done because the design is too outlandish and the budget doesn't allow for it. But when it comes to it, how have you seen some of those things when you do see some of that quantity surveying getting done, and how that aligns with what you see from that builder's side?
yeah, quantity surveying is an interesting one, isn't it? It's like estimators and the way they price plans. They all have different methods and different ways that they approach it, and they also have different costs on some things can vary quite differently from one to the other, which I've found interesting. I'm not sure where they get their costings from, or whether they have some sort of a data bank which needs to be updated. It can be tricky keeping up with costs with things changing all the time. I get that, but I've just seen with some of these QSs that do estimations, and they give you a fully itemised estimation of a job, which is great. So you can work through it. But if you get a couple of them on one job, the difference you can get between the prices on some things can be really substantial. So it's really interesting. So you still got to check that yourself with where you're buying your materials or with your subcontractors for that particular item, whatever it might be. If you pick up something that's just doesn't look right, so it's doesn't cut out the builder from the estimating stage. I mean, it can cut out the time of going through it all, but particularly if you're the builder doing the job, you've got to make sure it's right. So you've got to sit down and go through that list and just make sure you're happy with the prices he's using.
Yep.
Because I've just found they can be substantially different sometimes. I don't know if you've noticed that.
No, they can be.
Yeah.
They're different guys, and like anything, it doesn't matter whether you're a builder, an architect, a quantity surveyor, or even just a tradesperson. The range of differences when it comes to services, qualities, the value, and that sort of thing can change dramatically. And whether it is a small percentage or a large percentage, and people are getting the costs come in, and we see, okay, well, one project or one guy is and let's just round it off and just say, okay, ourselves as builders, we've got one guy he's got his cost and everything up at 1.5 million for the project, and there's another guy that's down at 1.1. How can there be $400,000 difference on the same project? That just doesn't seem to make any sense.
Yeah, and I think that's something people should be conscious of, and a lot of people aren't. They think, "Oh, wow, that's 400 grand cheaper. I'm going with that."
Mm,
That could really come unstuck, can't it? Because then you could find out that, oh, no, this wasn't included, or that wasn't included, or something's been missed, or it can just cause a lot of problems down the track. I mean, if 1.5 guys just ridiculously low at the price, well, it'll be okay. But 9 times out of 10, that's not the case.
mm,
Everyone sort of, if they've gone to the trouble of pricing the job, they would go to the trouble of pricing it correctly, you would imagine. I mean, you're not going to waste your time pricing a job if you don't want. I wouldn't anyway. I don't think
yep,
many builders, not reputable builders, are going to do that anyway. So, yeah, that can be really interesting. So, that's why you need to check everything and go over everything, don't you?
mm,
Quantity surveyors are good with their measurements. They get all their measurements right, their square meters right, their sizes, dimensions, all that sort of thing, but not necessarily the costs. It's got to be a cost that the builder can either, yes, can get it for that price, or no, he can't get it for that price. So that's got to be
yep,
checked. And yeah, I think that's another thing with, like I say, going out to 3 builders, and people just seem to want, I mean, we all want to get the best value we can for the money we're spending. It's human nature, but you've got to make sure you are getting value for money, and you're not going to get caught later. And the cheapest price is not always the best price. It's
mm,
can be quite the opposite. Could end up costing you more at the end of the day. So you need to know who you're working with, what you're working with. And I guess from a homeowner's point of view, it's probably a little bit hard for them to check that. I mean, they can only go, and that's, I guess, where they get advised by architects who only get builders that they know, builders they've worked with before, that they know they can trust, that they know do it
mm,
right. They work with those guys regularly. It's probably okay. But I generally find that when you do that with an architect, and that they use the builders that they've worked with, the prices are usually very close to each other. So that doesn't happen. So, but if one's way different to the others in either direction, I'd be just as concerned about the low one as I would if it was a high one, because
yep,
something might not be right, something could be missed. Builder could be,
mm,
and if you're going to try and force him to a price and something's being priced incorrectly, you're going to force him into bankruptcy or something. Well, then you're in a
mm.
world of hurt, aren't you?
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's going to cost you twice as much then if you've got a house half built and he's not there anymore.
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly challenging out there trying to navigate the whole space. I mean, once you start to sort of get through that initial design concepts, and you get some initial costings and that sort of thing that can be done against your project. Once you get past that, then does it actually get any easier? That's the thing. Does it get easier from there, or does it get more complicated?
Well, yeah, I guess, I mean, it should get easier from there, shouldn't you, if you're working with the right people? So you've got to check out the people you're working with. And I think the same probably goes for architects. I mean, the
Mm,
clients just, all they need to do is get a few references or something off someone that they've worked for before, that they can have a chat to and get a little bit of an opinion.
yeah,
Same with the builder, same with anyone, sort of thing that we do as well, just to check on people. If we're taking on new trade, you just look into their background, find out a
mm,
bit about them, don't you? So,
that's right. That's right. And
because that's all you can do. And then from then on, it's experience. If something goes wrong, well, I'm going to keep away from those guys, or I'm not going to keep away from those guys, whatever the case may be. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We do live and learn along the way. I mean, there's obviously little lessons. There's always lessons in life, and there's always lessons in business. It's always, you get burnt every now and again, or you get screwed over every now and again, or whatever the case that, makes you, I guess it improves your business. You've got to take a positive out of it all and say that, well, look, we're going to look into why this happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. And
Mm,
that's how you improve your systems, don't you?
yeah, definitely. Definitely. Ah, awesome. Well, I think we've touched on a fair bit of that at the moment, and I think that do we have probably even a little bit more to touch on in another episode, that space sort of from getting those designs and that sort of thing. We can jump into a little bit more of a discussion on that at a later stage in another episode. It'll give some insight into what happens between getting a quote done and that the initial concepts, because there's a lot that happens in there and it all takes time.
Yeah, yeah, and the difference between architects and draftsmen, yeah, we could talk about it all day, couldn't we? So, yeah.
Oh, we could.
But, yeah, thanks for your time, Hugh, and I'll talk to you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to Builders Beyond Borders. If today's episode helped you feel more prepared, clearer, or more confident, share it with a mate who's planning their own build or reno. Got a question about building, renovating, or working with tradies? Send it our way. We might cover it in a future episode. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you never miss the real stories, practical tips, and builder insights we've got coming your way. Everything shared on this podcast is based on our experiences and those of our guests. It's general info only. Any reliance on the information provided is done at your own risk.